House Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan and Majority Whip Steve Scalise are squaring off in a bout to become the next Speaker of the lower chamber. Republicans are set to come together early today to choose between the two GOP powerhouses, both of whom similarly aligned on addressing spending and securing the border.
McCarthy declined to endorse either man, according to reporter Guy Benson, who took to X, dishing on his interview with the banished top dog. Supposedly, McCarthy requested the conference to not renominate him and expressed that Patrick McHenry should remain as acting speaker until a new one is elected.
Trump has endorsed Jim Jordan, not himself. Trump will not be the Speaker of the House, unfortunately. Yeah, we're going to see how this shakes out. In terms of policy, there's not a great deal of difference between the two, frankly. They have, different kind of personal stories. Jim Jordan, I think, is perceived as very close to Trump, as sharing a lot of Trump's grievances, views, while also being, kind of a typical standard pre-Trump Republican in terms of his views on taxes and spending and I think foreign policy as well, frankly. He's clearly wants to fund Israel as a result of what's going on, to send more military funding. But Steve Scalise is virtually identical on a lot of those fronts, so I don't know that there's a tremendous amount at stake in those terms. Matt Gaetz considers himself to be a protege of Jim Jordan and has certainly more loyalty toward Jim Jordan. Again, some of this is personality-based. Some of this is having to do with behind-the-scenes kind of how things go, and it wouldn't be obvious to the American people, why do you like that guy more than that guy?
And that's been the argument the whole time, that Matt Gaetz doesn't really care about any of this, that he wants to grandstand, and that also he has a personal issue with Kevin McCarthy, and that this was all driven by personal animus. If that is true, you can see a world where the caucus is able to align around Jim Jordan despite the same central concerns about funding to Ukraine being at issue. Yeah. Personality conflicts going away, plus pressure to fund Israel equals there's a deal made, even though the Ukraine funding still isn't resolved in favor of the Freedom Caucus. But I think my perception is that there is a investment from the Republican establishment in painting Matt Gaetz as not having any ideological interest in the things that he's been holding out on. And so I am taking all of that with a grain of salt. And just because Matt Gaetz has a personal conflict with Kevin McCarthy doesn't necessarily explain why he was able to rally, 7 other of his fellow Congress members to join him in this risky and exposing campaign to oust the Speaker. So I'm not entirely. It's hard for me to imagine how this resolves. And without Matt Gaetz losing face, how he backs away from the central issue of funding in Ukraine.
It's also interesting to note that absolutely nothing is going to come of the delusion by many mainstream media figures, also some kind of never Trump Republican types, saying, well, given what's going on with Israel-Palestine, we have to set aside this squabbling and return McCarthy to the speakership. So, we must have a strong speaker to shepherd us through these uncertain times. No, that's not happening. Sorry. No, we're not putting American politics on hold because there's a crisis somewhere else in the world. The Republican Party is still working through some very deep disagreements on, not just personalities, but actual policy, what the foreign policy of the country is going to be, the difference between insurgent members who speak for a lot of the Republican base and the leadership, which, despite their virtue signaling to Trump, to have a pre-Trump mindset on a lot of issues, particularly with respect to foreign policy. So that battle is still that still has to be worked out. We're not pausing it because of what happened, as so many pre-Trump or never Trump Republicans wanted to do. Not going to happen. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Meanwhile, Republican South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace turned heads yesterday in the halls of Congress for wearing the letter A after voting to boot McCarthy from the speakership. Here's how she explained it.
I'm wearing the scarlet letter after the week that I just had last week, being a woman up here and being demonized for my vote and for my voice. I'm here to let the rest of the world know and the country know I'm on the side of the people. I'm not on the side of the establishment, and I'm going to do the right thing every single time, no matter the consequences.
This is exactly what Nathaniel Hawthorne intended.
Is this either yes, Queen Slay, or is this cringe?
Look, of course, as someone who has been a critic of the weaponization of identity politics on the left, think it's doubly silly for conservatives who have been huge critics of every kind of identity politics, whether it's weaponized or just people saying, hey, I'm a woman and I have specific needs as a woman, obviously. I think that this is even in more bad faith. But is it that big a deal? No, I think there's something tongue-in-cheek and kind of silly about it. But she went on a limb.
Yeah.
She stood with Matt Gaetz. She is a Republican who has been willing to break from her party on a number of issues. She has advocated for a more moderate stance on abortion. She is no stranger to or person who's fearful of the limelight. And she knows how to do a stunt to get the kind of attention that she needs, frankly, to get the fundraising she's going to need to protect herself against the onslaught of Republicans who have said that she should be primaried and ousted for doing the completely unacceptable thing of standing up to her party.
She should have gone further. She should have set up a fake gallows. She should have had a reverend saying, "Bring forth the adulteress."
I think they banned gallows on the Capitol after 1/6.
All right, okay, fine.
No guillotines after 1/6. Look, it's silly. It's silly, but I do.
We are coming into costume season.
We are coming into
corner.
costume season. There is something kind of. I don't know. There's something a little bit charming about it, and I find her to be sort of refreshing, frankly, in the broader Republican field. And look, don't forget, we played a clip either earlier this week or last week showing all of the Congress members lining up, all of these establishment Republicans lining up on TV to talk about how she needs to be punished. Her in particular, I will say, I saw
burn the witch. They had their pitchforks. They were assembling the bonfire. She is unclean and impure.
Yeah. And so I really don't hold it against her. Wanted to do a little bit of a stunt to draw attention to the fact that she does have a target on her back or on her front, and people who want to keep her in Congress, who like what she's been doing, whether it's on the abortion front or on this kind of pro-Matt Gaetz Freedom Caucus front.
We've landed on the Slay Queen side of this debate. Well, we will be paying close attention to how the speaker race sorts itself out, and we will bring you the latest news on that when it occurs. More Rising in just a minute.